Hello, and we are live. How about that? Just like that. It is kind of amazing how quickly that happens. And boom, we have guests. Hello, Jennifer, in the magic superpower of time zone changes, all the way from Victoria, Australia. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, Kathy, joining in from Calgary, Canada, and Jewelful. Lovely to meet you. We have not today a slight change switcheroo on the calendar. I did have Erin Youngless scheduled today, and we're just going to have to pick her up another day because she's feeling poorly. So we've got that fixed and picked up one phone call, and boom, Diane Burley says, sure, I'm in. So stepping out of the snow and the cold and the power outages and the household construction with me today is my cousin, Diane Burley. Welcome,
Hi, cousin.
welcome, Diane. It's so good to have you.
You.
Hey, look who's back from her travels at the Olympics. Welcome, Lori, Susanna, cousin Susanna. Nice to see you, Deborah Carl, our very own mission genealogy tipster. Welcome indeed. So here we are with the countdown ticking down below 7. So we are getting closer to the Roots Tech itself. And you're stepping in, Diane. First of all, kudos on the courage, because you're stepping into this world of very highfalutin genealogists and focused on your own story about your great grandmother Leonora and her incredible accomplishments in labor unions at that time, and say, well, let's go find out how all this cousin thing works. And joining in with the Roots Tech, do it with me, right along.
Giddy up.
Giddy up. It just sort of works. We got Texans, what can I say?
Exactly.
So tell me, you've just written a post about starting to see the crossover between researching genealogy and the research that you're doing for Leonora. So tell us a little bit about that and what led to this post.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for thinking of me, and thank you for ignoring the fact that I am like such a newbie, and really
We all are.
beyond with these people. I see you all, and your tips are amazing to me. So yeah, I started my Substack 3 or 4 years ago, not really knowing what I was going to write about. I've been writing about high technology for a million years and thought, all right, well, I'll continue that. Or how to be a storyteller. That was another area of that I was, really strong in. But then my 100-year-old aunt, it was right before her birthday, she says, you have a relative who was a suffragette and a labor organizer. And I'm like, whoa, wait, how did I not know about this? So I started digging into her, and her name's Leonora Carney. That's the family name. And I went down this path of trying to find as much information about her as humanly possible, and it was so disjointed and so difficult. And I'm thinking, how could this be? So I'm working with my husband's cousin is also a historian, and she said, you know what, get on My Heritage. It's the easiest of them. They have the best, the most recent user interface. And so I did. But then I found myself lacking information. So I found myself going into the other tools as well. And I'm constructing my tree. And in constructing my tree, I'm finding all these other really incredible stories as well. So I decided to, within my Substack, create something called, I was doing Life Deconstructed, which is what my craziness. And then the other one is Voices of the Past. And I'm really having a great time. And I switch gears. In fact, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know which one to put this under. Is it Voices of the Past, or is it, it's all your musings of a storyteller? But
these are sections of your Substack.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
sections.
do I know that book? What is this?
No, there's
Did I miss
sections
something?
of which I thought of today when I was seeing somebody else, or when Erin was supposed to be speaking, and you'd mentioned her different Substacks, and I said, you know what, I should mention that. So anyway,
good.
Yeah. So I'm new at this. I bump my head up against the wall when I know information is wrong, and don't know how to fix it. And it says detach record. And I'm like, oh my God, if I pull this thread, does the whole, sweater unravel? So
Uh-huh.
uh,
Uh-huh.
that's where I'm at in my,
Hey, I confessions of a I can't say genealogist. Confessions of an amateur family historian. I too have only in this last year built up the courage to say, yeah, no, dude, that is wrong.
right.
This death certificate, which absolutely says that Wilbur is Charles's son, is not true. It's his brother. I know this for a fact. Now, what is the fact that I know that by? Ooh, okay. Well, I know that's wrong. So,
Exactly. Well, like
yeah,
Leonora's mother was listed as, because they had a tombstone and it's in Wikipedia and everything, that this is who her mother is. I'm like, wait a minute, her mother's 3 years older than her? No, that was the second mother. That was the stepmother. Where is her original mother? Now, I haven't been able to, there's just these holes in and I keep coming at it from different angles. So she was Leonora Carney and she married William Barry and then she remarried Obadiah Lake. So her name,
point for
her,
names all the way around. Come on, man. Any
exactly,
Obadiah in a family line is right up there
Obadiah.
with a Zechariah. I know.
Don't you love it? And what I've found is that her accomplishments are listed under these different names in different records. And I think that's the whole thing about genealogy or researching history is we're both dealing with records. What tool you use and what you call it might change, but at the end of the day, that's what it's really about.
That's
And
right.
she was doing it as a Sister Barry in the Knights of Labor. So that's another place where her accomplishments are hidden. And
And
again, that's no different than us, right? We did things under all the different corporations
yeah,
that we worked for, and
right.
they laid claim to it, but you did
Yeah,
the work. So anyway,
that's
I'm
right.
having a
No,
ball.
and that's exactly the point. Many of us come to this interest with our own set of experience. I come to it largely with experience in engineering documentation. I know it may seem like a big metaphor, but really, if you think about it, any object that you have that you purchased, there is a record for every single little piece of plastic and screw. True. That goes into the assembly of it, the subassembly, the time it takes to assemble it, and so on. It's not that different from what it takes to have every single record related to a genealogy. So when I say the death record, I'm sorry, somebody goofed up the death certificate. I know. I was the informant on my mother's death certificate, and they got it wrong 3 times. It was
Okay.
kind of breathtaking. It was COVID, you know? Um, but seeing that, and now every record of the change is documented, which is its own little twist, but actually kind of makes sense. It's like show your work.
The work.
And of course, I know my great grandfather that this was his brother Wilbur. But now I've got to go look and see what I did at the time. But just because I know that, it's still you gotta prove it. I can't just say that's wrong, fix. Well, fix means what? Delete it? Um, no, you gotta go show the right answer. And I think the concept behind that is so consistent to everything we actually do with quality and accuracy that it makes sense to do that. It's not about indoctrinating foreigners into the language of genealogy. It's about a discipline. We know there are absolutely tools and language, centimorgans. There are language for all of these kinds of things. It's one of the reasons I kind of wall myself out of DNA, just because it's another whole thing that I'm just not ready to go there. And for other reasons, I haven't gone there with my own tests and whatnot. Um, but going through all of this, Lori Olson White here, our intrepid researcher, drops in here. Throw in name variances to those records, and they get even more fun. You call him Wilbur, but his BC birth certificate might be something else. Yes, that's absolutely right. Whether it's middle names, and that was in fact exactly what stumped me. I'd been trying to chase my dad's family. We're going to come back to religion in a minute, but I was trying to chase my dad's family, whom I knew had immigrated from Switzerland after an event relating to the rolling ball of hay. And that's all I knew. And I kept looking up the family in Switzerland in any conceivable way, looking up in Switzerland. Reese, Ries, is not the same as RIS. Could not ever find it. And in fact, it's very consistent once I knew that to look for RIS, but I actually did find it because of Rolling Ball of Hay and my dear cousin Joel, who found me because of SEO, Substack. Thank you, Joel. Maybe I'll see you here at Roots Tech. So, in that case, he immigrated to the United States from a very devout, or rather, with his mother and grandmother, from a very devout Lutheran family. And sure enough, the family found their way into the Lutheran communities. And I have had since made a discovery just from relatives at Roots Tech as it related to that story. But tell me a little bit about the insight you had about religion as you were exploring Leonora's story in the genealogy records.
Well, and there's quite a few different angles to that question, so thank you. You may regret it. Uh, my my father's side is Italian, and because of the Council of Trent, my father did our family tree years ago, right? And he was able to get 1564, whatever. He can find records all the way back. Now he's made some errors along the way, but he did a very good job considering he was literally using the back of a napkin and was jotting things down as he did his research online. My mother's side was Irish, although her maiden name was Post, which doesn't sound Irish, and so they went like this. I think we were Pennsylvania Dutch or something, and that was the end of it. I never knew anything more. So in digging in through these records, the big challenge with the Irish records, in particular Irish Catholics, is that a lot of the records were lost. They were recorded in parishes, but because of penal laws, there was a period of time where the church records were either destroyed or they were keeping them sort of surreptitiously. And, and the traveling priests didn't necessarily know the spellings of these people. So you have this whole array of disinformation and misinformation. And, you throw your hands up going, I don't know. I'm here, so something must have happened. On when I listening to Kyla and Bill and you on these Roots Tech casts, you guys greet each other. Hi, cousin. Hi, cousin. I'm going, I wonder if I'm related to these people, right? So I logged into Roots Tech and I looked to see, and then of course I hadn't been using that software, so I had to fill in, duplicate a lot of the work that I'd already done in the other tool. And I find that I have like a lot of fifth cousins, sixth cousins, lots of seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th cousins. You and I are 11th cousins. And I'm thinking, why is it so distant? And I start doing the math on that, and I'm looking at the drop down of who they are, and I realize they all come from one portion of my family. And if I go to my
Post.
Well, yes, and back further, but it's that line. And what it was is Franklin Post was Protestant, and he married Catherine Carney, Leonora's cousin. And he, in doing so, when I look at Franklin's records, it explodes. And all of the records, everything that instantiates that I am here on this earth today, is because of that wide opening of the doors from the Protestant link of the family that only started, 4 generations ago. So it was really eye-opening to me. Now, will that change? Yes.
So, well, as I like to say, everybody has 10,000 ancestors, right?
Everybody.
because that's why we're here. So it's not a question of do you have the ancestors, it's a question of do you know? And being able to track them down. In my case, I have just a hair's breadth under 10,000 relatives at Roots Tech. But of those, because of multiple connections, I have over 15,000 who are related to my mother and not even 100 who are related to my father. So the reason for that is because that's where the tree is. And my father's tree is actually not because of the Lutheranism, but because it was only in the 19th century that his family came to the US. And all of the associations with the detail in my case are extremely well articulated on GeneaNet. Genea. Just a second, I'll look that up. GeneaNet, GeneaNet.org. That's why I was confused. GeneaNet.org, which is basically a European online family tree that is very, very structured. And my cousin in Switzerland has gone to the trouble to put all of those records in there, which is superb for Swiss records in his case, but also German and the rest of Europe. And it's been fascinating to see. I mean, I pull a lot of that stuff over into Family Search, cross-referencing it, I'll add.
Right.
But that's why I have very few cousins. But it was because of one of the cousins that turned out to be a fourth cousin. But he was related through that German, not the Swiss, but the German side of the family, that I was able to make this aha moment about how they got here. But yes, religion and physical location and then ancestors, which is why, and again, credit to Kyla for showing me this, how looking by ancestor suddenly opens that out and you can sort of see where the tree lies. I loved your diagram. What do they call that kind of diagram? I think of it as like a hive diagram.
Yeah,
but
it was
scatter plot.
Yeah, but it was supposed to be like a vague graph, graph
Right.
explosion.
There was a time when in the early days of LinkedIn had a LinkedIn Labs.
Yes.
And you remember that? You could take your network and upload it and then see where your connections are coming from. And since many of us would change jobs, we would have this is from this job and this is from this job, or from different segments of the market and so on, which was I don't know why they don't do that anymore. It must have been some technical issue that they ran into, or accuracy. But I thought that was always interesting. Wouldn't that be cool if Family Search did that?
It would be really cool. It would be really cool. It would be
so.
Nice.
Did you know, by the way, about Lieutenant Timothy Lewis Durkee in your family tree?
Yes. Well, Lucy Ann, I did a story on her. She was the one who I was hiding during the Indian raids in Vermont. So that was Timothy's wife. And they lost a son in that raid. Aiden was taken to Montreal and killed. But two other sons of theirs were freed by another woman, not a relative. Well, I guess if we go back far enough, she probably was a relative, right? But she was in the same little community. And that was such a fascinating story. Yeah, just
that story is on my Stories 250 series. Thank you for tipping me off. And one of the fun things to do is to find those two that were helped them and look them up in Family Search and sort of see where they are. As you say, they probably are relatives, but
it came up on when I looked at the ancestor line, they're definitely there. So it was that branch of the family that that was and it's this Dutch branch of the family that brings me back to being related
Ryerson.
to Elizabeth. I'll have you know.
Yeah, well, exactly. I got Charles
I didn't even know we had Dutch in the family other than through this. I think we're Pennsylvania Dutch or something. So it was really in the last year or so.
That's to the famous ancestors. Don't miss that fun, because they just did a big update to it for wherever the data comes from. But I'm closer to Charles I than I am to you.
It's true.
I better Get out my ermine.
That's right. Polish up that tiara.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So do you plan to, spend a lot of time in, cruising around the Roots Tech classes and any of that? Do you have time for that
Oh,
sort of
yeah,
thing?
absolutely. Because I don't know what I'm doing. So I mean, having like you, having been in technology, normally I just, play around and tool around and have a good time.
Hang out in the
I'm
hallways.
I'm always a little nervous when it says detach, and I can't figure out if I detach, do I lose my grandmother or what I do? So I'm and I
Generally,
don't
you're detaching a record, but you could be detaching a person too. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, do you lose everything below that? It's sort of,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Well,
it's
I'm
part
gonna
of the
there
puzzle, is it?
who was it? I'll credit you, Bill, who talked me into going through and, uh, uh, checking out the events that are happening in person, and then going through all the ones that are in person and looking for the syllabi. So,
Nice.
I that was brilliant for me. So one of the ones that was in there, and I guess it was I seem to think Kyla was the one who encouraged me to do this, is to look for the wikis. Oh, maybe it was Mert telling me how powerful the wikis are. And there's a talk on how to get the most out of the wikis. And, come on, man, we've
I
been
just
doing wikis
started with
since the 90s. But
I I just
it's
started
a
with Wiki, one Family Wiki or something like
yeah,
that.
Family Tree's
And
internal wiki.
yeah,
It's very old school for the layout and whatnot,
it
but
is.
it's like going into the stacks in a library, and now you've got the chief librarian giving you a tour of the stacks. I think that's did you know that for every country on the planet, there is a wiki practically? And then here is where the information about that country will be. And then here's all of it's like, oh, 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 that's very cool. And, so I that's one of the ones I'm studying up on, and, oh, look who's already here. Check out Banyan. I think that's a software company. I think it lets you do some tree type clustering. Also BYU Family History Tech Labs Virtual Pedigree. Virtual Pedigree? I'm not sure what that will do, but, Banyan, correct me if I'm wrong, is a DNA company that does that, and that would be how you're doing tree type clustering. I think we're talking about getting it's stretchy. I'm going to say sketchy, stretchy. Oh, maybe she means being able to take the cluster diagram and stretch it out. Yeah, that's fun. I don't know what the data's about. It's still fun.
I'd like to figure out how I've got 2 IDs for myself. A cousin had started
Oh,
something
yeah, stretchy. Yeah, stretchy,
that
like the interface. Yeah.
accordion. Um, yeah,
You
so
were saying?
no, I have, when I signed up for, Family Search, it creates an ID, but then I found out that a cousin of mine had started a tree, very limited, and it went off onto a different branch of his family, and, I'm named in it, but it's a different ID, and he's the one that
Ah,
put the wrong
they
grandmother.
absolutely. Well, yeah, okay.
You
I
gotta merge.
will you can merge them, and, I don't know about merging living people, how I've definitely merged people that are on the tree that are gone, but, yeah, if you're confused, as Kyla has reminded us, the local family search centers, uh, actually, I believe it's run now internationally, that you can schedule time with a consultant, basically tech support,
Right.
to walk you through it, or research genealogist at your beck and call.
Exactly.
Um, I did call one and kind of ended up pitching her on Projectkin, but she was very sweet and very excited. Um, but that's where so much of this is just so extremely helpful, as is the rest of our community here. Speaking of extremely helpful rest of our community, hey Lisa, welcome, welcome. And good morning, Jane, who is one of our real experts on DNA, as that's how she's made the connection to her remarkable American side of the family. Or let me rephrase that. That's how we discovered how remarkable that connection was. And for me, it set off the whole Stories 250 series to realize someone in New Zealand has a couple of ancestors who were around at the time of the American Revolution, and their stories were so unexpected and interesting, fluidly moving between loyalist and patriot side, even Spanish. And that is just a reminder of what a complicated revolution it really was. In any case, where were we going? Oh, oh, just yesterday, last night, in some parts of the planet, Kyla and I had a lovely live stream. And in the chit chat ahead of time, pushed a button and discovered on a live version that you can share a live stream, share a screen right there. I know you're on a desktop now. Won't push you now. I am on a mobile for a number of reasons, but that's going to be very fun. And I think we'll probably find some ways to share a little bit of that. You can see that in yesterday's Substack live session. So apparently it's a little button, and the hardest thing is to figure out how to get back out of it once you do that. But we are all out here experimenting with new and different stuff so that we all can feel comfortable, trying something new, going somewhere. And that's really the key to, from my view, this whole ride along idea, as is Projectkin itself. The whole goal here is to encourage more people to be sharing their family stories, not on my platform, not on anybody's platform, but get the stories told in any way that works. Because you're making connections between cousins, which is nice, but you're also connecting yourself with your community and your place and history. And we sure have a lot of politics to deal with on a day-to-day basis, but what brings us together is the commonality and shared experiences and healing that came from past conflicts, right?
Well, and I think if we take a look at what they went through, and they
Yeah.
figured out a way to persevere, and it really should give you a lot of cheer and encouragement because, for everything that is negative, we lost heat and power this week, and I was thrust into the 19th century. And let me tell you something, being in the 21st makes everything a lot easier.
Yes, appreciate that dishwasher and the iRobot
Well,
and
this right here, I couldn't have done this. No internet, no nothing, no heat, no hot water, no stove, no nothing. So it was, we decided to just sleep. Let's just sleep. Maybe it'll be spring soon.
well, I hope spring is coming. Do you see some melting?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful sunny day today. The furnace is running. Everything's right with the world. Well,
Yes, good.
not
Well, even my trusty cat assistant has stepped away from her cubicle because it's heated. It's got a little cat heating pad. She's like, "Ah, this is too hot," so she's gone over to the side to cool down a little.
No, I'm really
So
excited
it's
to learn more over the next few weeks. I mean, everybody on this, I think I follow all of you, so I'm always getting great tips from everybody. And I hope Erin's feeling better. I know she was sick, so hopefully
she's chimed in, and I'm hoping we can schedule another one. And as you all know, I do these every Sunday-ish, Sunday in California, and with a wide array of guests. And I'm always interested in bringing in new voices and sharing more experience and perspective. I mean, you're a great example, frankly, of bringing in a perspective, even though you don't feel confident about showing a certification of degree of anything in particular. What matters here is an insight and perspective, because it also gives all of us confidence to go out and
well, I feel very confident about the information I put forth as a former reporter. If I can't verify it, then I don't use it. I mean, I've heard rumors, and rumors are just that's just a lead, and I chase down that lead. And if I can't verify it, Like, Leonora's husband, William Barry. If I can find nothing on this man other than there was a William Barry who went to jail. I found out I called the Department of Corrections and found out he was given a gubernatorial pardon. I don't even know it's the same person, but I wrote about this person, and I write it truthfully that
Mhm.
this is the person that I found in the same town who had a lot of the same interests, and he every characteristic checked the box. And I'm like 95% sure it's the same one. However, I'm not certain. And I think if you're truthful, that's about what you know and what you don't know. That's
Al
that's
Yeah, also, as I see it, everything we put down is always a draft because we're putting it down with the best of what we know and how it is that this is the best of what we know, show your work. Because if another cousin doesn't come along and say, actually, I have this other record, or they come along and say, it is your grandchild, not yet born today, who comes along and sees that and says, no, 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 I have this other
absolutely.
record,
That's how I
right?
look at it, that I'm writing our generation's legacy, I'm writing the future now.
Right,
And
right,
that's why it needs to be as truthful as it can be, and when
right,
you don't know and you say you don't know, and then others can fill in the gaps if they do know, or they
right.
can write
Right.
it out. But
Exactly. And I think that speaks to me to that notion that you're never really done. This idea of being done with a family tree, don't understand, except that it's saying my goal was to hit all 32 gr- third great grandparents. Is that right? And I have filled in all 32 of those boxes. You can say that. Yeah, I did. I filled them all in. Is it right? I'm not sure. Could you be more sure? Absolutely. Will it be a what did you call it? A rumor, a pathway for someone else to follow? Absolutely. And that's the best part of all, is
you know,
that
we,
yes, as Kathy is putting it, you can drop some crumbs for someone else who will come after. I think
but
this the
one of the things and if anybody here is Irish or Italian relatives, a lot of times they are baptized under Latin names, which has nothing to do with what name might be called within the family, or even the diminutive that's known throughout the family. So I have a great grandmother, and my dad called her one thing, and the records are something else entirely. And it's just like, is this the same person? And I wish I'd started this when my dad was still alive and I could answer a lot, be more certain. Um, but anyway,
you're not the first one to say that.
I know.
I know. I know. And, I did start it with my mom. She unfortunately had already slipped into dementia, and my dad was just, here's what I know, just not that interested. And there are, phases and generations and their own reasons and their own complicated feelings about something to take them from where they are. But I think it's very true that there is a life pattern, just like nesting. There is a life pattern that has you, at a certain point, you recognize the condition of life. You know where you're going. You know how this movie ends, and you're not afraid of that anymore. Are you getting old? Give me a break. Come on, man. And you just talk to me about where this is going. Um, Gwen chimes in with, yeah, Latin names sometimes named after saints of the birth month. I have Polish step cousin who claims this.
It's very possible. On the Irish side, the names are at least similar. Johannes for John, Honora for Leonora, although they weren't the same. Leonora, it's like there's a whole line. On the Italian side, I didn't even know they had these names. I just, I have no idea. There's so many Marias. I think it was like a lot of on both sides, Mary and Maria were used for the Virgin Mary, and everybody had to have that name somewhere in there, and then nobody was called that because you'd have 1,000 Marys in your family. So my grandmother used
Yeah.
to joke, you have fat Tony, skinny Tony, little Tony, big Tony. So so now you come up with other names.
And that can
And
tell
none
you
of
a
that's
lot.
in the records, I can assure you.
None of that's in the records. There you go, Giuseppe for Joseph in
Exactly.
Croatia and Italy. I remember asking my mother, oh, who was I named for? My brother and my sister are named very clearly for, their great grandparents and great grandaunt. But what about me? What about me? She said, "Yeah, I just like the name." And I just felt that was such a hollow answer. But then, I did a little look into the records and I discovered a baptismal record. Now, I grew up really without any sense of religion at all. Who knew I'd been baptized? Who knew I had a godmother? And it turns out that the godmother was the wife of my dad, whom my mom divorced when my I was just in diapers. She was the wife of his best friend from college, and that's why she didn't want to acknowledge it. So, sometimes the stories are there, and I just like the name is actually a road sign that says,
My sister is Mary Christine. In fact, my son's, girlfriends, all the women in the family are named Mary. Mary Catherine, Mary Elizabeth, Mary Gabrielle, Mary Isabel. Every single woman is named Mary. Every boy is named, why am I drawing a blank? I just
Joseph.
Joseph.
Joseph, John. You're
Joseph.
welcome.
Every
Actually, Gwen did that one.
every boy is named Joseph. I mean, these records are just, like, out the window. And by the way, they're Polish, so they probably have I'll ask her if they follow that norm. But
Yeah, it could
they've
be.
decided that that norm ends in this generation. They're not conti and my sister's Mary Christine. Never have we called her Mary, ever, never. She's always been we don't call her Christine either. She's named after both grandmothers, so she's Chris.
Yeah. Yeah. But naming patterns are really fascinating because it says so much about a family and,
I don't know if
the
this happens in
invisible things passed down.
I don't know if this happens in other ethnic groups, but in the Italian, if you had a child die, they would rename use that name again. So,
Oh,
kind of
yeah. That I don't know I don't know what's wrapped around it, but certainly in my family, there was a lot of that as well.
was there
Always look for those death dates and
you're
sort
exact
out who these people are. Gwen just chimes in here with I have a Thomas Sankey's that go back to the Revolutionary War with a few Jeremiahs thrown in. And Gwen, hot tip. There's this Stories 250. I would love to include your story in that series if you've got a story written up about the Revolutionary War with your Thomases and Jeremiahs. I'm all in. And remember, I'm not looking for people who are necessarily pedigreed and documented with certifications and whatnot. I'm looking for your stories. Your stories are what matters. And welcome, Mary. Welcome. Yes, English. Jane Chapman chimes in. It's an English thing to do as well, renaming children for children who have died.
I didn't know.
And I didn't know that either, but that would explain a lot about my family on my mom's side. Definitely a lot of that there. I'm torn between two objectives here. One, I try to keep these nice and tight and short.
Yeah.
And two, I love to honor all of you who have joined, even just coming in right here at the very end. I so appreciate seeing all of you as a crowd, even as I'm pummeling you with these emails every day during the 10 days leading up to the show itself and through the show. It is fun to do these now as a sequence for a join me, will you? Or ride along.
Can I
Oh,
ask
Mary, I simply mean we're just buttoning this up, and I hate to do that as you just
may I
joined.
ask a question before we
Oh, please.
if which event do you think a newbie like me should um be attending? If I only had one to go to, what is that one that you think? And I know there's several of you on here, so I'm going to get a lot of
Listening for while you all type in your answers, I'll tell you what I would do is given what you already know about your specific interests, I would search the search the schedule for your specific interests and paying no mind to what's available when, whether it's in person or not. Ignore that. Build your playlist based on what you would want to see, and then sort your playlist by in person and online, and prioritize those that are in person, and make sure you download all of the syllabuses
Right.
handouts.
Okay.
And then take a look at your schedule and remember that the things that are online, vast majority of them are also recorded, because the same technology that puts them online also records them. And then some of them are actually not even live. They're just released at that time. They're recording anyway. So that's why it's perfectly fine if you have 5 things at the same time. You're not going to see them all at the same time, but that's when they're released and you can start planning to watch them after that. So, yeah, that's Deborah's point here. You can always go watch them later. They'll be there in the library for 5 years. Though, there is something very energetic about creating that moment in time. And the chat is a big deal, because for every event, there is a scheduled chat. And the chats are, I believe, all open now. So you can ask questions of the speaker. And I've been a recorded speaker when they release that. And so you start seeing that chat, so you can start engaging with an audience before you're even, well, in my case, the recording is released. And it's very meaningful. It really creates that conversation in the same way that this does here. So that would be my key advice, along with, I think it was your tip, Kyla, to go check out the wikis, because they are pointer systems. They are your card catalog. For those of us who remember what cards look like, the 3x5 card. Okay, that's not one, but you know what I mean. The little lines. Gotta love the lines. All right. Well, we better quit while we're ahead, while we're talking about card catalogs, and go do some. Oh, hello. Nice to see you join us, Rob. I know, forgive me, but we are just wrapping up. I want to thank everyone so much, and especially to you. Please, everyone, give
Oh,
Diane a round
I
of applause for just stepping up to be there. It just goes to show that we aren't all ready all the time, and sometimes things happen. I do very much appreciate you just stepping in there and saying, sure. If any of you are interested in doing these kinds of live streams, but not quite ready to do your own yet, first, go ahead and do your own. Don't wait for me. But if you're not ready to do your own, pop on over. I have a list over at ridealongpartners.org on that top page that says, want to be a guest? Drop your name here. And I would have started there, but everybody who had been dropped in there had already been scheduled in. So that's where I reached out to you, Diane, and boom, here we are. So let's do that and share more of these. And if you have your recordings of things that you did, send them my way. I pop them up into the recordings page, because I just think it's important. This doesn't use any kind of hashtags to the world, because those are terrified of being on camera. Jane, do you want to tell her about being terrified on camera? I can't tell you how many people who have done Projectkin programs, whether it was over Zoom or like this, for the first time, that, were terrified of being on camera that first time. And it's actually kind of empowering, right? Would you agree, Diane? In
oh,
the
I
sense
love
that
it.
you realize,
I'm also really grateful that this is now on the laptop instead of on the mobile phone. I was always afraid that this thing was going to fall, and
yeah, just the practical matters. Right, exactly. Well, thank you, Jane. That's very kind of you,
yeah.
but it is very sincere. And those of you who may have seen me as part of my startup Projectkin will probably remember how many times I totally blanched and flinched and stared into space and didn't know what I was doing or saying. I never held a piece of paper because my hand was trembling so hard.
Oh,
There you go. And it's
or no.
you just be yourself, and it comes through. And that's what we're trying to do. Again, whether you do this privately or publicly. My cousin and I are going to do one of these live streams. actually a series, talking to each other, talking to cousins about cousin stuff and who we know and what we remember. And the recordings go in that private private Substack. No one needs to see it. Who cares? And that's the point. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So appreciate it. Drop your comments here in the recording, and we'll keep the conversation going. And check it out over at ridealongpartners.org. And let's do this thing. I hear rumor I'm on a mini Mert tonight, by the way. We shall see. Stay tuned for that. Bye.
Bye-bye now.